Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Sylvia Perez. Dane Placco has more on the message relayed from the mayor this morning. Dane, what did he say?
Yes, Sylvia, this was the first news conference by Mayor Brandon Johnson since those ICE raids were conducted over the weekend across the Chicago area. And the mayor struck, you might say, a defiant tone, saying he will not be intimidated by the Trump administration. In a wide-ranging news conference that lasted more than an hour, Mayor Johnson and some of his top department leaders, including Police Superintendent Larry Snelling, sought to calm fears in the immigrant community about those ICE raids and deportations. Snelling says they believe more than 100 people were arrested during the targeted federal operation over the last few days in Chicago, and although he could not give a specific number, he said he believed that most of those taken into custody did have outstanding warrants or had committed crimes. He said, as per their policy, the police department neither helped nor stood in the way of the ICE agents. Mayor Johnson condemned the raids as a stunt being used by the Trump administration to stoke fear, and said the city continues to stand by its sanctuary city policy of protecting working-class immigrants even if they are here illegally.
City leadership and I remain close in our communications. We will continue to work closely with the Chicago Police Department to continue to monitor this situation. We stand together firmly in our welcoming city status, as well as our commitment to protecting all residents of the city of Chicago, no matter where you come from or how long you've lived here.
There's a level of fear out there that we have to bring down, and as authorities, we have a responsibility to be that calming voice. And I think it's important for everyone to understand right now that the information that we're getting directly from our federal partners, and when I say partners, these are people that we have worked with through the DNC, and we work with on everyday crime issues as those violent crimes affect our city.
I'm a fan of police officers. I'm a major, huge fan of police officers. I believe that they are underappreciated. I believe that they need to be celebrated, heralded, and acknowledged on a regular basis in the same way that our military is, and being our frontline warriors and being the first responders to anything that happens inside of our communities, whether it's a violent crime or a domestic dispute. Police officers 100% deserves recognition. But Larry Snelling over there in Chicago, in this instance, don't. You cannot continue to support bad behavior, and you cannot have a mayor and a police chief that advocate for criminals first when they cross over into the border, and then criminals that are exacting crimes against residents inside of Chicago while they continue to fund a migrant crisis. It's disrespectful, it's evil, it's horrendous, it's every adjective that you can find negatively to describe our politicians that y'all vote in office that y'all deserve, not all of y'all in Chicago, but y'all deserve, because they continue to run y'all cities into the ground, and y'all allowing them to do so while at the same time supporting them, and they taking y'all jobs, they taking y'all opportunities, and they taking your tax dollars in order to do it. It is irresponsible at best. At best.
Crime issues as those violent crimes affect our city.
Mayor Johnson also refused to say whether he will testify before Congress, recently receiving a letter from a congressional committee to testify about the city's sanctuary city status. He said they are awaiting their decision. The city's corporation council stepped in front of the microphone and said they are weighing their options. They're looking at it as a legal request and not as a request for him to simply go and speak his mind.
So now he's refusing to testify before Congress. Similarly, other mayors from other blue cities, including Mike Johnson over there in Denver and Eric Adams over in New York, was similarly requested to speak before Congress, but we'll see what happens.
Let's start with immigration tonight, and we're going to go first to News Nation's Alex Capriella, who's live in Chicago. Chicago was one of the first cities to be hit with these immigration crackdowns. Alex, the city's mayor responded today. What did he say?
Yeah, this was brand new information that came in, a letter directly from a committee in Washington, D.C., asking Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago to appear next month in front and testify along with mayors from Denver, Boston, and New York City. Obviously, sanctuary cities all across America are under a microscope right now due to the local laws and ordinances that protect immigrant rights. But Chicago, nonetheless, has been subjected to those raids, as we saw Border Czar Tom Homan in the city over the weekend, overseeing the operations of immigration and customs enforcement. Now the mayor has been alerted that he is under investigation. At this point, his legal counsel is taking a look at the letter that was sent directly,
which costs more taxpayer dollars. His legal counsel. It costs more taxpayer dollars.
Directly to his office to see whether or not that is an actual mandate for him to come to Washington, D.C., or simply an invitation for him to do so. Let's take a look at some of that letter in specific. I'll read it to you from James Comer, the chair of that committee, who writes, quote, "Sanctuary jurisdictions and their misguided and obstructionist policies hinder the ability of federal law enforcement officers to effectuate safe arrests and remove dangerous criminals from American communities, making Americans less safe. 4 cities, however, stand out in their abject failure to comply with federal law: Chicago, New York City, Denver, and Boston."
Throw Los Angeles on top of that. And you might want to throw Mayor Andre Dickens over there in Atlanta in that too.
Citizens of all 4 cities have suffered due to sanctuary policies. Let's take a listen to Mayor Brandon Johnson earlier today at City Hall as he continued to reinforce his sanctuary city status and how he will continue to fight back against President Donald Trump and his immigration policies.
The type of fear that this administration is trying to incite, we are demonstrating that we are going to protect the residents of this city, and we're going to continue to challenge the federal government to make critical investments in the lives of people who want a better, stronger, safer Chicago. And so, just like we dealt with the crisis at the border when the Republican Party attacked our city, sending buses without notice, we got through that. We're going to get through this moment, and we're going to get through it together.
And also on top of that, Chicago has recently had a rating downgrade, which basically puts the citizens and the taxpayers under more duress. They was trying to raise taxes. They had a $1 billion budget shortfall going into 2025, and it's going to be even bigger going into 2026.
And as I mentioned, Border Czar Tom Homan here in the Windy City over the weekend. We heard for the first time from Superintendent Larry Snelling from Chicago Police Department. He says that immigration and enforcement have taken in at least 100 people here in the Chicagoland area for detainment related to those federal immigration policies. It's also important to note that while Mayor Brandon Johnson continues to say that President Trump does not have a true pulse on the heartbeat of America when it comes to the way we feel about immigration, of course, the majority of Americans voted for President Trump based in part on his immigration policies. And specifically here in Chicago, Elizabeth, a very small fraction leaned to the right when it came to November voting.
And you're going to see more people come out against all of these people in these sanctuary cities and hold them accountable for the fact that they are taking advantage of American taxpayers, and it's not benefiting them whatsoever. Let me know what y'all think inside of the chat. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, Teach Henley, 40% off your first order plus 20% off for life. Let me know what y'all think about people like Brandon Johnson, who I personally believe is the worst mayor of any major city inside of the United States of America, continuing to solicit and protect illegal criminals inside of the United States, and also obstruct justice and continue to make residents in Chicago unsafe by defending people who are criminals, have been convicted, and is not supposed to be here in the first place. Y'all let me know what y'all think inside of the chat. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to holler at y'all later. Peace.